Hi, Chike. How are you doing?
Good, Brooke. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I am reading something about AI and the workforce every single day, if not multiple times a day. And it's had me thinking about the fact that 2 years ago, you and I actually were talking about this. And we wrote an article together that described AI back then as a jump ball moment for the middle class, meaning that, public policy and the choices we make now could determine how AI either benefits workers or leaves them behind. So I've been thinking about that conversation from 2 years ago, and I'm curious, looking at where we are today, do you think we're still in that kind of pivotal moment, or is the window already closed for shaping AI's impact on the workforce?
I think we still are in that moment, but I think the ball was a little lower in the air than it was 2 years ago when you and I first had that conversation. Whenever I talk about AI, I kind of say two or three things. One, this time of both promise and peril. Both are real, and it's important to acknowledge both. I think secondly, this AI moment has exposed a lack of emphasis, a lack of ambition, a lack of boldness, candidly, over the last probably half century with what we need to do with America's people and talent. This has been true from K through 12 all the way up through higher ed, the workforce system. And those deficiencies, that lack of scale, hasn't finally met the moment where we need that ambition and that scale. And now we are being forced. But this has been true for a while. I think the last piece, and I think this is really a political moment, is beyond the technical pieces of how do we get a system fit for purpose to get us through to the hopefully a better version of this world with AI that captures the promise and mitigates the peril. There's also a deep deficit of trust.
Yes.
We have, for all of my lifetime, talked about how we need to create a system fit for purpose for the changing world. But where we are is still not with a system that gives people the confidence that we're going to get to the other side of this moment in a way that dignifies people, captures that promise, and mitigates that peril. And so that's where we are right now. We also have, candidly, less time than we did 2 years ago when you and I first had this conversation.
We have good programs, but programs are not going to fix this problem alone. We do need something at scale, something that matches the scale of the transformation. And that really has to happen through all sectors being involved together in a collective effort, as I've heard you say, and through public policy. Public policy is what helps us scale good programs, right? There's lots of conversations around, do we need to predict exactly which jobs are going to change, which jobs are going to be eliminated, what the new jobs are. And I do think better predictive data on all of that is going to be really important. We want to be as precise as we can. I also think that that shouldn't stop us from taking action on the things that we know people need now. So things like continuous skill building, better career navigation, much better economic supports than we currently have. And we talked about those things and the need for them to be part of a policy agenda and the need for workers and local businesses alike to help shape that agenda. So I'm curious, do those recommendations still hold up? Is there anything you've seen that would change your thinking about what we should prioritize, even as we think about doing it at scale?
I think one, everything I think you say is still right. I would add some urgency because of some ways in which this technological transformation is a bit different than I think ones that we've seen in the past, even though in many ways it is similar. And one thing that you and I talked before is the speed. So again, electricity and telephony. It took 80 years for those two technologies to reach 100 million people in the United States. Fast forward to the internet. That took a little under 8 years to reach 100 million people. Generative AI, and let's just use AI as measured by the launch of ChatGPT in September of 2022, took 8 weeks to reach 100 million people. We are so far from that
Yes.
than we were then, and we will be farther where we are now, though it will be another 18 months. The speed. Secondly, this technology is candidly hard to predict, differently than the Industrial Revolution, even different than the initial waves of automation that you saw in the late 60s, early 70s. Again, I do not believe that folks at OpenAI thought that two models would jailbreak their sandbox and go hack a client. This is 3 days ago. I believe them. I do not believe they predicted that. There's an unpredictability and uncertainty on technology more than I've ever seen of any other technology. So with those two things, okay, what are the things that we'd have to do for people? And to me, it's through there. I'd say there are three buckets. One is, all right, what do we know is going to be true no matter what? We got to get every person fluent with these technologies. And I go a step further and say the most vulnerable people truly become AI native, and we have to proactively do that because these
Yes.
tools are becoming like Microsoft Office, like Google Docs. They are table stakes to being in the workforce. And if you do not give people those skills, they are locked out of the workforce. It is not
Yes.
true now. It'll be true in 12 months.
Right. And I mean, we did work, and you know this, on and this was pre-Chat GPT, right? On the digital economy, and found that
Exactly.
92% of jobs then required at least one digital skill, but 1/3 of workers lacked access to those digital skills. And so if we don't solve for this problem now, it's just going to compound that existing problem, right? And exacerbate it. So absolutely agree with number one.
The
Yeah.
1A moment where there's a bit of a gap closing opportunity is right now, as I heard someone once say, we all roughly know the same amount about AI, which is nothing. So right now, you actually can do a lot of gap closing for most vulnerable populations by getting them those skills differently than with other things, because we're all still learning. This is the internet. We're in 1997. The 1B is that people also need to become above average and great at the things that all these human beings can do. Right now, the age of average in kind of human skills is over if you are an American worker, because one can project into the future that however this technology goes, at some point, the machine will do more of those things than the machine can do. I think secondly, I think on the predictive, yes, there are certain things I think we can predict are going to be challenged, whether it be professions, sectors, things like that, by the rise of this technology. And we should have tools on that can be very granular and very real time. Then there's a third piece, which is really important. This is the hardest piece. I take this actually from a lot of my friends in national security, which is I watched a former national security advisor once say, I would try and predict what would happen. And I realized after a while that was impossible. So my goal was to scenario plan and simply to plan for everything and create systems that could respond to whatever the future held. We need to do that here. Whatever this system is that we're going to create to support people. Yeah, they're talking about data, supports, reskilling, safeguards, all this. How does it move in real time with the speed of this technology? This technology is changing at most generously quarterly. Training needs to pivot that fast. So as someone who's the vice chair of the Maryland Higher Education Commission, we're not moving at a quarterly speed. No system is, but we have to. Think about workforce, the public workforce system. It doesn't move that fast. The people who are going to be left in the lurch holding the bag are workers who are trying to keep up. So how do we, one, do the things that we know are going to matter no matter what? Give people the skills they need with this technology, make sure that they can do the things only human beings can do in an above average way. Two, predict where we can the things that will change, that will be challenged, that may even strengthen. For example, we're seeing a surge in entrepreneurship. There's a reason for it. AI is actually making some of those things to start a business a lot easier. And that is a class of our economy that actually is almost a power player, because done well, it also creates jobs. But thirdly, we have to create a system that is responsive, proactive, and can move at the speed of the fight. Because the fight that we're in is to keep workers up with technology so that they are empowered by it and not walked over by it. It requires that all these different silos and parts of the system, local, state, federal government, private, public, social sector, the tiers of education, K-12, higher ed, workforce, corporate reskilling. I've named a lot of different stakeholders. The workers don't care. In the end, the workers need what they need, and the silos should be invisible and irrelevant to the people who need them. And that is hard. You and I both know that.
Yeah. I would add maybe a fourth piece to your three, which is we need systems that also give people some economic stability as they then lean into all of the adaptation that I heard you mention as part of number three, right? And that's also a really hard thing sometimes for our public systems, right? To provide both a level of economic stability while also then having a workforce system that can be very adaptable and proactive in the way that you're talking about. We've been doing a lot of work talking with learners and workers and students. And so much of the time we hear that it is those things: putting food on the table, having health insurance, figuring out how, you're going to care for your kids while you go back to school or train for something else. Those are the things that get in the way of people pursuing reskilling or upskilling or additional training. And so if we have this goal of supporting people and continuously adapting and building new skills as the economy changes, we need to make sure that those other pieces are there so they can take the risk and lean in. And so I think it creates an opportunity, to your point, to really rethink about how we deliver all of that together in a seamless way for people. So if we know that we need to be changing these systems, why aren't we seeing more action on change? Like what's the biggest barrier on action on policy change from your perspective?
One is that there's some basic philosophical debate here. well, I'm squarely on one side of it, which is there are some people who would say people just need to figure it out. And honestly, you are on your own. There are people who believe that. I do not believe that. I think most people, the bargain they want with not just their government, but I think with the rest of society is I'm going to do what I am supposed to do, which is I'm doing everything I can to take care of myself, my responsibilities, the people who depend on me, who I care about. Beyond that, when there are things that happen that are beyond me, I ask for help. And if I get that help, that's not just better for me, it's better for everybody. That is the side of the debate that I am on. And I think when we look at history, particularly in these times of huge transition, that is it. But that is a debate. People may debate, okay, what's the mechanism? How do we do it efficiently? How do we not waste money? How do we not create more bureaucracy instead of less? Those are details and distractions, but there is a fundamental debate about that. Are you on your own or are we in this together? Number two, we are human beings and we are products of inertia. We do it because it's the way we've done it. But that is a huge mindset shift because the entire system was built around filling out for and taking it in. So that requires a change. To use an example, how does a long-standing organization disrupt itself? That is unusual for human-based organizations to do. I think the third piece is the silo piece. Very few people see the system whole. Again, if you think about the ideal system, you either have an incumbent worker who wants to do more, better, or you have a worker who's been dislocated. I economically stabilize you as quickly as possible. Ideally, before you've been dislocated, because we know by the data, you always do better if I can keep you out of being dislocated. I'll get you economically stabilized proactively so you can take care of yourself, your family, because it's the moral thing to do, but it helps you focus on what you want to, just get to the next job. Ideally, we help you navigate to what that is. Okay, where are you now? What skills and aptitudes and desires do you have? Where do you want to go? Let's map you the path. It might not be one jump. It might be a couple. Then ideally, we get you to the next place. And while you're there, we are helping you, again, get those skills, whether it be through your employer or somewhere else, so that whether you want to stay there and move on, you can do that. And then it happens over and over and over again. We have no semblance of that system at scale today. I can not just nationally, but I can't name you a state. I can't name you a city. I can't name you a county that can do all of that. We don't have enough places to see the system whole. And this is a thing I think we can learn from some of our international colleagues, whether it be Germany, Austria, Switzerland, that they do well. I think most people, they look at the apprenticeship model there, rightfully so, but what they've done is they've created a table where all the stakeholders sit regularly and discuss the system. I'm sure there are fractious conversations. I'm sure it's not clean. I'm sure it's messy, but they have a table. We in the States don't have a table. At any level of government, any level of or society, where all supposed to come together and say, okay, this is how we are planning this system. And then I think there's this last piece, which is we don't see enough of the future. Yes, I know what we've done in the past. Let's forget about that for a second. What would we do if we had to start today? What would this thing look like? I don't think we get here in one single jump, but we have to go far more quickly than we ever have because of how fast this disruption.
I really appreciate you outlining those 4 things. Part of what I've been positing is that, building, deploying, and utilizing AI at scale is going to require the skills and contributions of working people. We are not going to be able to do this without working people, whether it's the people who are building and maintaining the AI infrastructure itself, whether it is the care workers who are in the hands-on jobs that AI is not going to replace and that, need to be able to use their judgment and their brilliance and their empathy to make the most out of this technology. We just can't do it without working people. And so how do we switch our mindset, as you mentioned, to starting to think about working people and their skills and contributions as key to making the economic future work for all of us, and then build systems that really deliver on that in the way that you're talking about. And what excites me about the piece you mentioned about really thinking into the future is what is it that we want from the future, right? What if we imagined utilizing this technology in a way that allows people to live the lives that they want to live, that allows our communities to have the things that we want to have, and by the way, does that all in a way that helps us be more productive and economically competitive?
I got to testify in front of the House Small Business Committee, this was last week, on AI and small business. I think we don't think enough on the workforce side of entrepreneurship, not
Yeah.
just as employers, but in some ways, this is a job. But one of the things I said is, and it's a quote I love from President Kennedy, which is that things don't happen, they are made to happen. And I think it is easy to believe that because of this technology and its speed and its power, that this is just happening to us. And I very much believe the opposite, which is that the world we want, we can make happen, but it's going to take all of us. And it's going to take all of us now. To use another President Kennedy quote, our problems are man-made, therefore they can be solved by man. This is up to us. And if we get to the other side of it, what's powerful is not just that workers are protected. It's not just about protecting them from peril. There is promise on the other side, like huge promise. There will be diseases that do not exist if we get this right. There will be technologies that we never thought we could create if we get this right. That is what's possible on the other side. It's not just about protecting workers from, very important. I think about this a lot, but also people to do things that generally were thought not to be for them. And so that is the thing that I think from a narrative perspective, we have to get right. I think right now, there's at times an unproductive debate about if you want any safeguards, you are against innovation and embodying the best of what this technology can bring. And vice versa, if you're for innovation, you are against doing things that would basically protect people from the worst possibilities of these technologies. And the answer is that we need both. And I think that's where we can be. And workers are going to be at the center of it because they're closest to the places where this technology can make the biggest difference.
Yeah. I want to end there. I think it's such a good note to end on in terms of what it truly means to put workers at the center of this transformation. Thank you so much, Chike, for sharing both like a very clear-eyed assessment of where we are, but also some really thoughtful and valuable ideas on how we really shape this moment for people.
I deeply appreciate you. Thanks so much for what National Skills Coalition does and for having this space for this type of conversation.